The Wood Elves have been stalking the force of Ethelred for about a year now, so let's get into it. Wood Elves, a very powerful army, have won major events if you want to play them competitively. Have several playstyles, none of which are heavily armored. But I do have some criticisms. I often make a Wood Elf list, get ready to do a stream or a battle report, and go, I don't really want to play this. So here's my criticisms of Wood Elves, even though I think they are still a lot of fun and powerful. Every time I make a list after playing them for a year, the list is either, oh, that's really strong, I don't really want to play that, or it's like, most of the things in this list don't really do anything. So it's a very similar problem that I have with the High Elves. I think a very, very powerful army. They can do crazy good wizards, crazy good characters on dragons. They have decent monsters in the fact that Treemen. Tons of options for core. They can do a few rank and flank type infantry units that I think do very well. Like the Eternal Guard, I think I've had great success with them every time I've played them. But as much as there are good things, the book has got far more boring, uninteresting, and almost useless things. Tons of characters, shadow dancers and waystalkers that, well, I guess not tons, a couple of extra types of characters that just seem to be too expensive to do anything. Can't find a job a shadow dancer could do that I can't get done better with a dozen other things. I can't think of a job I can do with a waystalker that those points can't be spent a dozen other ways that are better. I've tried a branch wraith numerous times and it has never done anything successful for me. But the real losers for me are the one, Wildwood Rangers. Decently expensive infantry that have nothing going for them. Let me explain. So the weapon skill 5, leadership 9, they have a form of a great weapon. It's a great weapon that is not strikes last. They're toughness 3 with like light armor. they can't take a punch. They can't take a hit. They are weapon skill 5, which is helpful, and they have a rule that weirdly enough, when you're fighting something that causes fear or terror, you have +1 attack, which is really useful, and multiple damage too. The thing is, all the things that the +1 attack and multiple damage too are going to be really good against, you can't wound them anyway. You're only strength 3 base, +2 for your ranger's glaive. Your strength 5, all these things where you want the multiple damage 2 or toughness 6 or higher. I have had these guys in multiple rounds of combat with monsters and typically get no damage through. You're hitting often on 3s or 4s. You're wounding on 5s. You're just not getting enough to go through to actually do any work. And then they die in droves for 14 points a model. So Wildwood Rangers, I have a squad of them. I really want them to work. I want them to have a job. But maybe their job is to be a super small squad of 5 as a flanking force. But the problem with that is if they flank something, they'll probably have, let's say, 5 out of 10 attacks if the unit causes fear. That's again, the targets you really want to hit, you can't really do a lot of damage to, and they're very susceptible to enemy bowfire, ruby rings, or ruin. If they're in line of sight of the enemy, they're dead. They're just dead. Yeah, so Wildwood Rangers are a big no-no for me. Way Watchers have been an iconic Wood Elf thing forever. Like, I'm talking decades, but I can't find a way of bringing them. 0 to 1 unit of Way Watchers as rare per Way Stalker taken. Now, Way Watchers are expensive guys with bows without this, in my opinion, without the special rules to justify their points. But I would still bring them anyway because they were an iconic Wood Elf thing. But to bring them, you must bring a Way Stalker, which is, after even a piece of equipment, you're spending 100 points that's just gone, pissed away, useless. So like Way Watchers have effectively taken it out of the army book for me. And Wildwood Rangers effectively taken it out of the army book for me. Those two units just don't seem to exist. They have no play, no value, which is incredibly disappointing for me. The Warhawk Riders are almost there. I mean, 2 strength 4 AP2 attacks on the Warhawk alone, 1 more strength 4 attack with AP1 from the spear. From the rider, you think this is a fast-moving flying melee unit, but I mean toughness 4, 2 wounds, and what's the save they have? Oh, it's none. A ruby ring, they're gone. Some bows, they're gone. They do have evasive. It helps out quite a bit, but the amount of finesse required to make these things do a job. I want to bring Warhawk Riders, and I can never justify the points. I can never make them do the job you want them to do. You maybe go hunt a war machine, but there are other things in the book that can do that job for far cheaper. Super hard hitting frenzied cavalry. Frenzied cavalry. So your opponent knows what they're doing. They're baiting them out. They're controlling them better than you. But man, I want to love them, and I know many of you do. And here's the thing. I used to hate them. I don't hate them anymore. I just don't love them. Okay, so we went through the things that are kind of like What's good? A lot's good. Lots good. Let's start from the beginning. Characters with always strikes first that are martial characters, great. Throw them on a dragon, even better. Throw them on a great stag, really good. Throw them on a great eagle or a hawk. You have a ton of ways of using the Wood Elf Noble. The Wood Elf Noble is amazing. Is a good fighter, good combos. The Ogre Blade seems to be the best choice. There are some defensive items you can get, but just a solid elf character on a dragon or other mounts, a flying skirmish mount, a monstrous ground mount. Tons of viability and options with the Wood Elf Noble. Wood Elf, the Mage is really good, the Wizard Lord. Sorry, what do they call them? Spell Weavers. Can take high magic, but battle magic seems to be the spam for Wood Elves. They have a really cool magic item. It's a stupid oaken stave. While within 3 inches of woodland feature, increase the spell range by 3. And add an additional d6 when making a spell roll and discard the lowest. It's so good defensively. You can really shut down enemy casting. And they can be on a horse. They can take, Wood Elves can take core Glade Riders, which can get reserve move. This is one of 2 wizards. I think it's this guy and the Goblin, who can join a unit of Cav that has reserve move built in. So your wizard could maybe move out of dispel range, throw off their magic missiles, and then move back into dispel range with reserve move, and then like shut down enemy spells next turn, or other tactics you can do. But they have an option to put their wizards on a horse to join the Glade Riders, get some really cool reserve move shenanigans, pop out, pop in, stuff like that, or put them on a Warhawk and get that crazy good movement speed. Evasive built in. Evasive is a fantastic ability to keep your guys alive. If your opponent is able to get just the angle they need to hit you with a magic missile, you can zip behind the woods that you're probably skirting anyway, which is solid, which is really, really good, really powerful actually. So like having that on the mount built in combos out the wazoo. So they're lower level characters, great options. Core choices, you got Glade Guard. I'll tell you right now, I've turned around on these guys. I wasn't overly keen on them at the beginning. I'm really turned around on them, especially since I've been trying to play them in big blocks of 21 and firing tons of bows. They're better in small blocks of 5, MSU, and it makes sense for Wood Elves. Play MSU, Wood Elf Archers, you're going to do fine. From the beginning, I've been the big proponent of just take poison arrows. Everybody a year ago was saying take the Arcane Bodkins, they're the best. I was like, I think Hagbane's the best, and I think finally a year later I've been proven right. To me, it seemed like the obvious choice. I ran the math on many situations, especially with the lower armor value across the board for most things. Poison is the best arrow to take. If I was having bows on Glade Guard in my army, poison, no ifs, ands, or buts. If I had scouting or moving type archers like my Glade Riders, my Warhawk Riders, I gave them the one that gives you quick shot, so you know the penalty for moving. I no longer prescribe that combo anymore. Even those guys, I just give poison. Just give poison across the board. Hagbane's the only arrow worth buying, I think, right now. Now, this is my opinion. You may disagree, but I think Hagbane is the only arrow worth purchasing at this point. And beyond that, we have the Deepwood Scouts. Same thing, but with skirmish and scout. Boom, amazing. Bring as many as you can. They're going to win you the game. They're going to do several things. Redirect, plink off wounds off monsters. They're going to do lots of work for you. No harm bringing a bunch of bows. Now, I've also had some, actually, no, I'm going to say a fair bit of success using my Eternal Guard. I bring a block of 24. These are elite, stubborn, leadership 9, elven, core infantry that are weapon skill 5 with AP 1 spears. Now, the reason why I've had success with them is I always put my BSB in the squad, and I give the BSB 3-up armor from the Armor of Silver Steel. I always give them Befuddlement of Mischiefs. In combat, a single enemy unit that is in base contact with the model suffers -1 to its weapon skill and initiative. So with these Eternal Guard being initiative 4, +1 for elven reflexes when they get charged, +1 for fighting with the spear, they're initiative 6 when they're charged in the front. Now, a lot of things in the game are initiative 3. This drops them down to initiative 2, which means they only jump up to initiative 5 when they charge you. Your guys are fighting in 2 ranks before them, Plus, you have a character in there, probably with a great weapon with always strikes first, swinging at initiative, so still before them. So things that are weapon skill 3, initiative 3, don't want to charge these guys, because it also lowers their weapon skill to 2, and your weapon skill 5, which means they're hitting you on 5s and you're hitting them on 2s. Now, this squad doesn't want to tangle with enemy elites, because that buff is not as useful against them. So if you lower somebody who's weapon skill 4 down to 3, you've effectively done nothing to them, because you're still hitting them on 3s, they're still hitting you on 4s. If you lower somebody's weapon skill 4 down to 3, and they charge you, they're up to 6. At best, what you're doing is you're making them swing at the same time as you. So it does help, but it's not as impactful as it is against the more masses of the weapon skill 3, initiative 3 units. I've had great success with them. I like them, so I'll use them a lot more. Other core choice is their Glade Riders. Glade Riders they're fast cav. We can do fire and flee, open order and skirmisher built in. Upgrade to ambushers, drilled if you want to, you don't need that. Reserve move, which is 1 point per model. It's just an auto include for me. And then they can have their poison bows. The great thing about these, I've used them several different ways with great success. Something for my wizard, reserve move that wizard around. Several games I've ambushed them with reserve move, so they come on, they move 8 in the movement phase, and then the shooting phase, they move 8 again. They are so incredibly mobile for blocking, harassing enemy war machines. Maybe you're going to hunt down an enemy wizard. They're super useful, but they're a thing that sometimes sometimes you gotta get cut at your army. You're playing an elf army. Things aren't cheap. You gotta cut things. You can't have everything all the time. For me, Glade Riders often get cut, but I feel bad every time I do, because they do have a great purpose. Sisters of the Thorn, however, feel bad bringing them every time. Leadership 9 fast cav unit that's got a 4 board save, but more importantly, they have rules that make them effectively a wizard that is effectively level 2 that can pick their spell. Most commonly, they're used to purchase just pick Pillar of Fire. And you have maybe 3 squads of these in your army, and then you have maybe a wizard or 2 to throw more Pillars of Fire. You can have like 5 Pillars of Fire out in the battlefield, controlling enemy movement and doing damage to them. It is a very effective way of playing them. So if you're playing competitively, bring 3 units of Sisters of Thorn. You're going to do very well. If you want to play more casual, don't bring any. Great Eagles are often a good choice. They're not nearly as mobile as they were back in 8th edition, but they're still good at hunting war machines, wizards, and blocking enemy units. But you gotta do that wheeling stuff, so the Great Eagles are not a bad choice to have in your collection. And then there's a whole other way of playing, which I do most often because I really enjoy it, is the Treemen themed. And hopefully when their Arcane Journal comes out, we actually get a Treemen theme or Treemen army of infantry. So Dryads can be your core ranks, or they can be skirmisher, and there's value on both of them. The Treekin are thick and hard to shift, and Treemen, if they had 1 more pip of strength, would be, I think, awesome. But as it stands, they're only just really good. The Tree Lord Ancient, I find, is a decent wizard for standing in the middle of the table, dispelling everybody, and unless your opponent has a dedicated way of killing monsters from ranged, it tends to survive quite a long time. If your enemy has a lot of war machines, he's going to go down, but you just hide behind a tree or something. Otherwise, I like the Treemen as a defensive wizard. I always take battle magic. I like the tree themed. Is it overly powerful? No. Is it weak and garbage? No. It plays nice. It's narrative. It's a fun way of playing Wood Elves, and it's almost like a second army within the army. Now, there was one criticism I didn't get a chance to talk to, and I hate to close the video on a criticism, but it's minor, but almost major. But maybe it would change the game too much. So one of the signature spells that the Wood Elves get is called Tree Singing, and I love it. So it is a 2 cast value spell, 7+ or 9+, and it summons a tree. If they roll a footprint of woods. If you roll 7+, it's a 3-inch footprint. If you roll 9+, it is a 5-inch footprint. It is so good. Often I use it in conjunction with High Magic and Tempest. So I put 2 of these on the battlefield to block my opponent from moving or charging. And I use reserve move or other mechanics to make sure I'm not into spell range with the person who casts those spells, so that my opponent can't easily remove, he can only remove 1 of them with a Fated Dispel, which is really, really good table control. Not as good as 5 Pillars of Fire, don't get me wrong. but he can't remove both of those spells, especially if I have reserved moves out of his dispel range. Now, my one criticism though was tree singing, because the core rules of the game say when you dispel a spell, you dispel the spell at its lowest value. It means the tree singing is like, it's guaranteed to be dispelled by your opponent if you're in dispel range of that wizard. It is, even if you cast it on a 9+, you only have to dispel it on the 7+ value. I would like to see a change to this spell being, if you cast the large version, if you roll high enough to get the large spell, you must roll the highest value, or the spell, the value is cast on to dispel it. Because as it stands right now, once the tree is laid out there, your opponent has to roll 2 dice. If he rolls a 3+ on 2 dice, if your wizard's still in range, the tree's is gone and has done nothing. That's I guess a criticism I have, that disappointing to me. But I wonder if you made it harder for tree singing to be dispelled, it would be overpowered, because I already do great things with it by moving away, so he has to roll a natural 8 to remove it. So let me know what you think. Do you think if tree singing was forced to be dispelled on its higher value, or the value of the power level is cast at to dispel it, would make it too strong or not? Because it does well for me, but I just wanted it to be even harder to dispel. My opponent dispels my trees half the time, and I want it to be not that often. But that's just me wanting more, I guess. It doesn't have to be more powerful. What else? Play up here. They can play down here. They have numerous play styles, but one of them is not heavy armored, and that's okay. They do well with magic, well with monsters, and well with the narrative. Good army. No, there's gonna be more. We're gonna do all of them. If the one you want to see, the army that you want to see, hasn't been re-reviewed, it's coming, I promise. Bookmark the channel, subscribe to the channel. Think about joining the channel as well. Without our channel members, none of this stuff happens, but you guys all know that spiel. Keep in mind that we do stream here on this channel every Wednesday and Thursday night at 5:30 p.m. with an old world battle report live. And then we edited down, uploaded Mondays and Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then every Sunday there is a handheld classic style battle report for our members only, in the members only section of this channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Happy wargaming.